Loneliness drives rancher Ethan Caldwell to seek a mail-order bride, but he never expects Annabelle Hart, strong, beautiful, and running from a dangerous past. Their journey from fear to trust becomes a heart-stopping Western tale of courage and new love. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And tell me, where are you watching from? Let's get started. Ethan Caldwell had spent years believing that the wind was the only voice that would ever answer him back on the open prairie. His ranch stretched farther than a man's eyes could see, and yet every evening when he sat on the porch, the silence settled on him so heavy that even the stars felt like distant company. That loneliness was what finally pushed him to place an advertisement for a mail-order bride. He imagined a simple woman, someone quiet and agreeable, someone who wouldn't mind the long days or the empty miles between neighbors. He wasn't looking for excitement, just someone who might walk beside him without that heavy stillness lingering in every corner of his house. When he rode into town the day the train was due, he carried only modest expectations. He didn't shave his beard any shorter than usual, didn't wear anything fancy, just the same dusty boots, the same coat worn at the elbows. But when the passengers stepped down one by one, Ethan felt his heartbeat thump hard against his ribs. She stepped off last, Annabelle Hart. Her name alone had seemed softer on paper, the way she had written with careful politeness, thanking him for the chance at a new life. But the woman standing before him was nothing like the quiet image he had pictured. She was striking, strong shoulders beneath a travel-torn dress, hair pinned up though several strands escaped wind-blown around her face. But what caught Ethan's attention most were her eyes. They held something deep, shadowed as if she had walked through fire to get here, and wasn't sure if she'd outrun the flames. Ethan approached slowly, tipping his hat. "Miss Hart?" She stiffened at her name before forcing a polite nod. "Yes, you must be Mr. Caldwell." Her voice was steady, but there was a tremor beneath it, the kind that comes from too many days spent watching over one's shoulder. Ethan offered his hand, and though she hesitated a beat too long, she finally took it. Her fingers were cold, tense, but she didn't pull away. "Your bags?" he asked gently. "I can manage." The words came too quickly, too defensively. Ethan didn't argue, though everything in him wanted to ease her burden. He simply took one suitcase anyway, ignoring the way she blinked with caution, as though kindness confused her. The ride back to the ranch was long, the trail winding between low hills and stretches of open sky. At first, Annabelle sat rigid, hands folded tight in her lap. She didn't ask questions. She didn't marvel at the land. She barely breathed. Ethan caught her glancing behind them more than once, a flicker of fear crossing her expression every time she heard a distant horse or echoing shout from the far reaches of town. "You're safe out here," Ethan said softly, not wanting to startle her. Her gaze lingered on him for a moment. "I'm not used to safe." It was the truest thing she'd said yet. Hours passed before she relaxed enough to lean slightly against the seat, her shoulders loosening as the wind brushed across her face. Ethan kept his voice low, speaking only when necessary. He sensed she was listening, even when she didn't respond. By the time they reached the ranch, dusk had painted the sky in soft smears of orange. The old wooden house stood quiet, a warm light flickering through one window. "This is home," Ethan murmured. Annabelle stared at the place for a long while. "Home," she echoed, as if the word felt foreign on her tongue. Inside, Ethan had cleaned the place as best he could, though nothing looked fancy, just neat, honest. He showed her the small room he'd prepared, noticing how she scanned every corner with alertness, like someone making sure no danger waited in shadows. "You can rest here," he said. "No rush to anything." Annabelle nodded but didn't sit until he stepped back toward the door. Even then, she perched on the edge of the bed like someone who expected to be pulled away at any moment. Ethan paused. "If you ever need anything, you just call for me. You don't owe me fear." Her eyes widened for just a heartbeat before she looked down at her hands. The following days passed quietly. Annabelle woke early, helping with chores without being asked. She moved with practiced efficiency, though Ethan noticed she flinched at loud noises, sudden movements, or the bark of distant dogs. Sometimes she walked the edge of the property as though memorizing every route of escape. Sometimes she stayed close to the house, clutching a shawl tight around her shoulders. When Ethan offered to teach her to ride, she accepted with surprising eagerness. Yet even on horseback, when the wind loosened her hair and her eyes shone bright, there was always a flicker of worry beneath the surface. One evening, while they shared a quiet supper, Ethan finally asked, "Annabelle, were you running from something?" The fork paused halfway to her lips. Her breath hitched. For a moment, Ethan regretted asking. He didn't want her to feel cornered. But she set the fork down slowly, exhaling shakily. "Someone," she corrected, "not something." She didn't say more that night, but the way she trembled told Ethan enough. Someone powerful, someone cruel, someone who believed she still belonged to him. And even though Ethan had known her only a short time, he felt a fierce protectiveness rise inside him. Whoever had chased her wasn't going to take her again, not while he was breathing. Annabelle spoke of her past only in small fragments, like pieces of a broken mirror she was afraid to touch. Ethan learned she'd once worked in a dressmaker's shop in a larger, wealthier town. Learned she had admirers she never wanted. Learned one man in particular had forced his attention, the kind of man who never heard no because he had money, influence, and cruelty in equal measure. He wasn't used to being denied, Annabelle murmured one night beside the fading fire, so he decided I didn't have the right to deny him. Ethan's fists tightened around his coffee cup. "Did he hurt you?" "Not in the ways he wanted to," she whispered. "I escaped before he could. But he swore he'd find me, said he'd drag me back even if it meant burning down every place I ran to." Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. "He won't touch you here." Her eyes lifted slowly, uncertainty flickering. "You can't promise that." "I can," he said, voice hardening, "and I will." A fragile silence followed, one that softened bit by bit as Annabelle searched his face for something real, something steady. Whatever she saw there made her shoulders loosen, just barely. Days passed. A strange warmth began settling between them. Annabelle laughed more. Ethan found excuses to be near her, teaching her to mend fences, showing her how to coax the old mule into walking faster, sharing quiet stories about his childhood. And Annabelle, in turn, began trusting him with pieces of herself she had locked away. But the fragile peace didn't last. It began with a telegraph. Ethan had ridden into town for supplies. The operator handed him a short message addressed to no one, just a question asked of the sheriff. "Any word of a woman traveling west under the name Annabelle Hart? Tell me immediately if she's seen." It was signed by a name Ethan didn't recognize, but he didn't need recognition. He felt it in his bones. This was the man Annabelle had fled. His blood turned cold. He didn't finish his errands. He rode the entire way home, with the telegraph burning in his pocket like a loaded gun. When he reached the ranch, Annabelle was sitting on the porch, sewing quietly. She looked up, smiling, until she saw his expression. "What happened?" she asked, voice thin. Ethan stepped closer, handing her the telegraph, her face drained of color. The sewing needle slipped from her fingers. "He's coming," she whispered. "He found me." Ethan knelt beside her. "Annabelle, look at me!" Her breath quivered as she lifted her gaze. "He won't take you, I swear that." She shook her head. "You don't know him. He'll bring men. He'll threaten you. He'll—" "Let him try," Ethan said, voice low and steady. "This is your home now." That night, neither slept much. The wind creaked along the eaves, the horses shifted uneasily in the barn, and the world felt too still, like the prairie itself was holding its breath. The next afternoon, dust rose in the distance. 3 riders approached. Annabelle saw them first. Her breath hitched, her fingers gripping the porch railing until her knuckles turned white. "It's him," she whispered. "Ethan, that's him." Ethan stepped outside, his stance calm, though adrenaline pounded through him. Annabelle followed, trembling but determined to stand beside him. The lead rider slowed, reining in his horse arrogantly, eyes fixed on Annabelle with possession, not affection. He was handsome in the way poisonous flowers are beautiful, too sharp, too sure of his own power. 2 hired guns flanked him, hands resting near the holsters. "There you are," the man said smoothly. "I knew you wouldn't get far." Annabelle's breath shuddered. Ethan moved subtly in front of her. "You'll dismount," Ethan said, voice cold, "and you'll leave this property now." The man chuckled. "You must be the rancher she lied to. She belongs to me." Ethan didn't move. "She doesn't belong to anyone." "She ran from a promise," the man snapped, "from a life I offered her. I intend to collect what's mine." Annabelle stepped closer to Ethan, courage trembling in her voice. "I was never yours." The man's smile twisted viciously. "You think he can protect you? 2 hired hands, 1 match in the barn, 1 shot in the dark. That's all it takes to end this ranch." Ethan stepped forward, jaw clenched, eyes hard as carved stone. "You'll threaten a lot of men in your life, but you'll never threaten her again." The man sneered. "And what are you prepared to do about it?" Ethan reached for Annabelle's hand, not out of fear, but out of defiance. Together they stood against the 3 mounted men, the dust swirling around them, the prairie holding its breath. "She's not going anywhere with you," Ethan said, steady as a promise. "Not today, not ever." And in that suspended moment, between danger and destiny, between past terror and future hope, the final confrontation was only just beginning. The man's eyes darkened, one hand drifting toward his holster as his hired guns shifted in their saddles. Annabelle tightened her grip on Ethan's hand. Whatever happened next, they would face it together.